Good day. I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about our role as officials. Recently, we received a few complaints about officials in our program for issues around abuse of power and overcalling certain penalties, particular game misconducts around unsportsmanlike conduct and abusive behavior. While I don't believe this problem is widespread, it does provide us with an opportunity to talk about the importance of professionalism as referees. As officials, we have a tremendous amount of responsibility in a game. We're mandated with keeping the game safe and fair. In order to do that, we have some tools at our disposal, including the ability to penalize players, up to and including suspensions. This is a lot of power, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. As officials, we have to ensure that we are above the fray, that we're professional and respectful at all times, even more so than players and coaches, which is why we treat disrespect with respect. Our role as an official is to be an objective observer and to not take things personally or to respond in a way that is personal and can escalate situations. Having said that, it's very easy to understand how this can happen. Like many of you, I continue to be an on-ice official. I know many of you started refereeing this season in August. Many of you are on the ice 5, 6, 7 nights a week, sometimes doing 3, 4, 5 games a night. This can be incredibly taxing, stressful, and frustrating, particularly when players and coaches are giving you a hard time. It's really easy to see how we can go over that line and make these situations more personal. What we always need to remember is that when we're calling rules of the game, they have to be consistent with the rules in the rule book. One of the things that we encourage is using a ladder system when calling penalties for abusive behavior or unsportsmanlike conduct behavior. So for an example, if someone is disputing a call, we want to first give them a warning. If they continue to dispute a call, we go to a bench minor penalty or a minor penalty to a player. If they continue more and it's a player, they could receive a misconduct penalty or a game misconduct penalty. For coaches, since there is no misconduct penalty for them, they could get a game misconduct penalty. You'll also notice that the rulebook says you don't always need to follow this ladder system, and that's for a very good reason. Sometimes the behavior exhibited by a coach or a player is so egregious that a warning or a minor penalty will not suffice. In those cases, we should absolutely be assessing the appropriate call of a game misconduct penalty. What are those situations? Well, one of the challenges is officials are mixing up abusive behavior, which is 11.2 in the rule book, versus unsportsmanlike behavior, which is 11.1 in the rule book. We've made a video a couple of years ago, and I'll put a link in the bottom of this description here that indicates the difference between the two. Essentially, for an 11.2 penalty, the behavior has to be extremely personal. So if a coach or a player is cursing and swearing at you and telling you what a terrible person you are and you're an idiot and you're this and you're that and the other thing, that would justify an abusive behavior comment. If they're focused more on the game and that you're not having a good night or that was a terrible call or et cetera, these things fall under unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Why does that matter? Well, the suspension is different for both. A suspension for a misconduct penalty, game misconduct, is 2 games, where for abusive behavior, it's 4 games. So that's why it's important that we get it right. At the end of the day, I understand why people get frustrated on the ice. I really do. I've talked to some officials lately. It's dark outside. We're in the middle of the winter, and it can be tiring and stressful and easily frustrating. And it's okay to feel that way. But what I really need officials to do is to disconnect from that, take a deep breath, and focus on the game at hand and not making this personal, because it isn't. Our objective here is to be a third-party arbiter to ensure that this game is safe and is fair to all of our participants. I'll give you an example. Last weekend, I had a set of games. I was not in a particularly good mood that day, and I knew that working as a referee for that level, that I probably was going to be a little bit more on edge than usual. So I did put my games up for trade. Unfortunately, no one took them. But when I did arrive at the rink, the lines person that was working with me was a senior official who could referee the game. And I asked him to do it, which he did. It worked out great because I knew that my mood had the potential to have a negative impact on the game. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. We want to ensure that everyone has the best possible experience. At the end of the day, coaches are not our enemies. They're dedicated volunteers that are out there to help the kids learn the game of hockey and provide them with a positive experience like we are. Are there nights when coaches don't behave properly? Absolutely. Should we be penalizing them for that behavior? Absolutely. We just want to ensure that the penalty that we assess is appropriate for the behavior that's exhibited and in line with what we have in the hockey rulebook. Because ultimately, that's our responsibility to the game. Not to make this personal, not to go out there looking for trouble, but essentially to call the rules as fairly and accurately as we can. If you'd like to learn more about how to communicate with coaches or players, we produced a video earlier this year on communication, and it focuses on the talk steps, taking your time, acknowledging the concern, listening effectively, and keeping it concise. We'll also put the link to that video in the description below. Above all, I want to thank you for the work that you've done so far this season. I know that it can be incredibly difficult sometimes to go out there and keep a smile on your face and do a great job. And you're not going to be great every night, and that's okay too. But please do your best to be professional and maintain the integrity of the game, not just for yourself, but for our entire officiating program. We have 1,150 officials in this branch, and the way that you represent us impacts all of us. So please keep that in mind the next time you're on the ice. If you're finding that you're having a rough game or having a rough night, take a deep breath, don't make it personal, and make the calls that are appropriate and in line with the rule book. On behalf of the referee in chief, John Reed, and myself and the entire officiating program, we hope you have a safe and wonderful holiday with family and friends. Get some rest and come back for the second half. Thanks for watching. All the best.